Great. Well, welcome everyone. Thank you so much for being here tonight for our class number 2 about the Unifying Consciousness Tarot. I'm so happy to see everybody and so excited to move into our next topic, going a little bit more deeply into the deck. So what are we going to do tonight? Well, tonight we are going to focus on the getting to know the Major Arcana section of the deck, the heart of the tarot deck. And I could spend hours and hours and hours on that topic. So I'm going to control myself and keep it really brief and just give you a taste of those cards so that you can work with them more and more on your own and get to know them more deeply. And then because at the end there, I want to save some time for us to actually start reading the cards. So somebody in here to actually start reading the cards, and we're going to read them just using the Major Arcana. And we're going to use a tarot spread that is in the book, the Blue Rose Tarot Spread. Okay, but first of all, again, just like last week, I'd like to say thank you. Thank you so much, everyone, for supporting Leo and I in this amazing journey of creating, not just creating the Unifying Consciousness Tarot, creating it and actually putting it out in the world and getting it out to all of you. This journey of ups and downs, divine inspiration and joy and learning curves, leaps of faith and sleepless nights. So we're so happy to have this chance to share it with you. And our dearest hope is that when you work with this deck, you'll experience the same kind of inspiration, transformation, and healing that we did in the creation of it. And the more and more that I work with the deck, I hope that you experience that as well. And so before we dive into the majors, I just want to take a moment to let ourselves arrive and relax and ground and center ourselves a little bit. And I'm going to put your attention to that title card again. So don't worry if you don't have it handy, you can have a look at what you see on the screen here. So just to set our intention for our work together tonight and for your work with the Unifying Consciousness Tarot, I offer you this blessing. May you be guided by the unifying consciousness of love. And I invite you to set your own intention for the evening as well. So maybe it's just to get to know the deck a little bit better, or to connect with the majors in a different way, or just to enjoy yourself and put some time aside for yourself. It's all good. But just give yourself a moment to fully arrive and think about what you're hoping to get out of our time together. And just to set the scene and remind you what we're working with here tonight, the Unifying Consciousness Tarot, this tarot deck was designed as a tool to help you to access source energy, to access that source of love, infinite love and wisdom and compassion that we all share. And it's going to help you to open your all-seeing eye, to spark your intuition, unlock your heart, start that healing process, and access your soul memory, that part of you that remembers who you really are, right? That you really are a being of light and energy and spirit, and remembers what you're here to do and recognizes the path forward more clearly. So again, I promise we're going to get into the majors, but one last setting the scene kind of question for you. Last time I asked everyone to choose a card from the deck, and I asked you to actively choose it, right? To just look through the cards and see what really sparked your intuition or your interest, and allow it to be your guide for 3 classes together. So if you were here last time, or if you watch your recording and you're able to do that, just consider that card that you chose, right? If you have it in front of you, or just pull it up in your mind's eye and think about over the past week, have any further messages been revealed for you, or any insights into the card that have come through? So I invite you to just take a moment, and if you are inspired to do so, just pop that in the chat, the card that you're working with, and one word or one message that it inspired for you since we last met. There we go. The moon, intuition, the hermit's self-reliance. Oh, I love that. The empress sovereignty. Beautiful. Beautiful. And so take the message of the card to heart, of course, and then also see how it informs you in your work with the Unifying Consciousness Tarot, right? Because I love all the intuition, self-reliance, sovereignty, beautiful. So these are all things, well, activation, I am, I love it. These are all messages from those archetypes, from those cards, but also messages from the deck about how it's going to work with you, right? Okay, beautiful. Okay, so let's keep moving forward here. So now, as I have promised many times, we're actually going to dive into meeting the major arcana at this point, our topic for tonight. So a little bit of background about what I'm talking about here, what the major arcana are. So even if you're new to tarot, this is the first time that you're picking up a tarot deck and or you've never really worked with them before, you're going to recognize some or probably all of the major arcana on some soul level, because these are images that resonate with the ancient and eternal part of you, right? There's something really primal about them that you'll remember these energies or these images from dreams, from memories, or they'll spark memories. You'll see them in the faces of loved ones and rivals. And most importantly, you're going to see them in the mirror, in your own face, looking back at you. So what are they? That sets the scene. Well, what exactly are the major arcana? What am I talking about here? So the major arcana, and major arcana, we're talking about big secrets or big mysteries from the term there, right? So as I mentioned, here we're in the world of archetypes, right? So energies that we are really familiar with on the soul level. But the beauty of the tarot is that the cards can take that energy and those ideas, those concepts, and distill them down into a card, into a form that we can hold in our hands, that we can interpret, that we can work with, right? So it makes all these big ideas and universal forces become a lot more accessible or easy to work with when you work with the tarot, because you can look at them right there and hold them in your hands. And the major arcana, what they represent for us, they represent the human experience, right? Where it really is to be human, to be a being of light and energy in this physical form, in this world of form. And so when they show up, they're showing us opportunities for life lessons, initiations along your path in life. They can give you an idea that challenges are coming, or perhaps triumphs are coming, and milestone experiences. So these are significant experiences that we remember, that have an impact on our life, right? And also move us forward towards our own spiritual development and our goals in our life. And the major arcana are guides and teachers that can help us along the way and help us navigate everything that we experience as we go through our lives. And so on a technical note, as I mentioned before, the major arcana, you'll recognize them because they have a title at the bottom of the card in our deck, but they have a title and they have a number. And so in the Unifying Consciousness Tarot, they're numbered from 0 to 22 because we added a card that we're going to meet later. So the major arcana show our journey through life, and we all start out as the Fool, right? And there's our Fool card on the screen. So we start out as a Fool, full of potential and excitement and anticipation and no experience and no wisdom, but we're ready to take that leap of faith and live and be human in this world, right? But then throughout our lives, as we dance through our lives, we meet the other major arcana. We meet them as teachers and as guides, and we also embody them, right? They may show up as other forces in our life. They may show up, they may be roles that we take on for ourselves. But in any case, they share valuable and healing information for us when they appear. And their purpose, I believe, the purpose of the major arcana is to guide us towards a really meaningful existence, right? To help us to bring richness to our life and to help us to understand what it is that we're here to do in our lives and how to reach that high vibration of love. And that, as I keep repeating, I know that's the purpose of our deck, is to connect you with that highest vibration of love. And so just a mention about the numbers on the cards as well. So the cards are numbered, and they are numbered for a reason, right? Because like the Fool being 0, that really tells us something, right? The Fool is everything and nothing, that pure potential that I mentioned. But then the other cards go in a nice progression, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, all the way up to 21 or 22. So we have a progression through our lives, starting out as a Fool and eventually achieving culmination in the final card, which is traditionally the World, right? But in reality, life doesn't always go that way, that nice and neat and tidy way of going in progression perfectly, right? Sometimes we miss a step. Maybe we skip over a major arcana, we miss it, we have to repeat it. We go 2 steps forward, go 2 steps back. We might get into loops and patterns until we resolve them and can move forward. But eventually we reach culmination and we get to start all over again, right? And hopefully spiraling up to the next level, right? But so I mentioned the numbers because I think it can be really informative and useful to consider where a major arcana comes up in the progression of things, right? So does it give you an idea that you're at the beginning of something in your life, right? You're beginning something new, or maybe you're towards the end of something. Maybe you're right in the middle of it, right in the heart of it. Or if you look at the cards that come before and after it, the sort of the energies that are around that card, are you going into a challenging time? Are you coming out of a challenging time and going into a healing time, right? So paying attention to the card that came up for you, the major that comes up for you in a reading, but also expanding your vision to see where does it fit into this bigger story of all of these major arcana. Okay, and so in the little book that comes with your deck, in the section on the major arcana, we included a description of the card, first of all, right? So the description doesn't go into every single tiny detail, that this symbol means this. Make sure you notice this, because I wanted you to be able to explore and get to know the card yourself as well, right? But the description sort of situates you in the story, gives you an idea of some of the symbols that were really important to Leo and I, and gives you a flavor for it, right? For the energy of what's going on in it and why we depicted it in that way. Then we included an interpretation. So giving you a starting point, an idea of what the card might mean when it shows up for you in a reading. So the book gives you a lot of information, but again, those interpretations are just starting points, right? To help you to get to know the deck and to give you that general idea. And then the more you get to know the cards, you'll see more and more how they relate more specifically to your life, to whatever situation you're looking at in the cards, right? And then finally, we included a blessing for each major arcana card. And so when a major appears in your reading, then you can have a look at what that blessing is, because that's the energy that card, that not just the card, that archetype is offering to you in this time. So it's going to be something beneficial, something supportive and helpful or informative. And the archetype, the energy, the universe is bestowing this blessing on you. You are also bestowing it on yourself, right? By reading the cards and by doing that work for yourself with them. And also you can offer that blessing to someone else if you're reading the cards for them and you're explaining to them what this major means and why it's come up for them in their cards. So I've touched on this a little bit already, but when the majors appear in your readings, pay attention. They are going to be blinking at you going, look at me, please pay attention. If you don't, they're probably going to keep coming up again and again for you. So pay attention and ask yourself, why is this particular major arcana card appearing now, right? What is the message that it has for me on the universal level, on the practical level, related to my life, right? And then, as I said before, ask yourself, where does that card, that major, fit into the sequence of the cards and in your own story? But most importantly, pay attention to them because they're big, right? They're significant messages and helpful ones too. And so I talked about it last time in the intro that all of the cards include sacred geometry to remind us that we're all part of the same universal pattern. We're all connected, and the minors are all connected with a particular sacred shape. And we'll talk about that next week. But just a quick mention that the Unifying Consciousness Tarot Major Arcana are connected with this shape that you see here around the blue rose, the dodecahedron. And that shape is connected to the element of spirit. So the major arcana are the world of ether or spirit, the universe, the stuff that we're all made of, and that connects us. And I'm going to talk about it later, the activation card, but we added this card particularly for our deck because it brings the major arcana full circle in a different way. Okay, so let's have a look at the first few cards of the major arcana. Right? So I'm going to take a sip of my tea. And my dears, this is really challenging for me because I'm like, what was I thinking about talking about all of the major arcana in 1 hour? In 1 hour, what am I can't talk, I could talk about one card for more than an hour. So I'm going to really rein myself in here and invite you to please work with these cards and get to know them. And what I want to do is talk just really briefly about them and point out differences from the traditional deck, I guess, like why we chose to depict them in this way and what the importance of it is for getting to know the Unifying Consciousness Tarot, right? So if you're really new to tarot, then I encourage you to like read the book and also get to know other tarot decks, of course, more traditional ones, but I'm going to rein myself in and talk about some of the really important points so that you can start working with the deck. Okay, so I'm a big fan of the work of Rachel Pollack, so I'm following her lead in the way that I'm approaching the format of our cards tonight. So you'll see that I put out the first row of cards here. And so when I was first studying her work, then she talked about dividing the major arcana into 3 rows of 7, right? That all sort of share a common theme. So I'm going to show them to you in that format tonight, just to break it down a bit. So the Fool is off on their own, right? The Fool sort of is floating somewhere over the other cards, dancing around, doing the Fool thing, right? So the Fool can go anywhere in the deck. And it's, to me, the Fool is the first card, the last card, and floating all around. So we're going to look now together at that first row of cards from 1 to 7. So you have the Magician, the High Priestess, the Empress, the Emperor, the Hierophant, the Lovers, and the Chariot. So if you have them in front of you, have a look at them. It's nice if you can actually, hold it in your hand or pick one up that catches your eye, or you can look at the ones on the screen that I have there now. And before I start going into any detail, just have a look. What do you notice about them? Is there one that really jumps out at you like, oh, I love this card, or oh, that one, that's weird, I'm not sure what to make of that one? Or do you get a feeling for what might be going on if you look at them all in a row there? And feel free just to pop any thoughts into the chat as well. If there's one card that's really calling to you, or if a question pops into your mind, and I'll keep an eye on that as I talk, right? But the flavor or the feeling for me for this first row of cards is like, the first row is letting you everything you need to know about the majors, about tarot. Is kind of orienting you, right? Because we have the Fool, who's the beginning, everything and nothing. Then we get into these interesting pairs of cards that start to show us the energies that we're dealing with in our early life, in our everyday life, so sort of our conscious world, right? Okay. So just have a look, and I'm going to talk really briefly about, move this around there. So you'll notice in just even in this first row of cards, that when Leo and I created this deck, we weren't going for any, how can I say, particular rock solid continuity, right? Like we're not seeing all the same sort of human figures facing in one direction. The card, we wanted to encapsulate the energy of the archetype, what really sparked our imagination about them and had meaning for us. So you'll see the Fool is that little white dog, or as I said before, to me, it's a little trickster, magical white fox, right? Staring right at you. Or is it you reflected in a mirror, right? The High Priestess, we have sort of a kind of human form there, right? Kind of divine magical form. Same with the Lovers, we can maybe recognize a little bit of human form in there. The Empress and the Hierophant, we see those eyes, but we're not seeing a fully formed figure there. And the Magician and the Emperor and the Chariot, actually, we're seeing much more a depiction of energy or movement, right? Rather than a fully formed figure. So that kind of theme follows throughout the whole Unifying Consciousness Tarot deck and through the majors, right? So don't let it throw you. Just try to get to know the energy that you're working with there. And so really briefly, there's looking at the cards there, the Magician, first of all. The Magician is an energy of manifestation, right? Of being able to tap into the magic that's all around us, the infinite energy that's around us, and direct it into something real and manifested in our lives. So you'll see in the corners of the card that we have depicted the 4 elements subtly. You know, you can see fire, you can see plants growing, you can see water and air, because the Magician can tap into all of the 4 elements and manifest what they desire, right? And to me, the Magician is movement, right? And that infinite flow of energy that's all around us. So we have those snakes that kind of look like the infinity symbol. We've got the snakes that are eating their own tail, the Ouroboros, because it's constantly renewing energy. So you can feel the movement in the card. Right? And the High Priestess, maybe my favorite card in this deck. I just love her so much. She's covered in moons, right? So we kept that. Her moon, her face, her head is a moon. She's got the triple moon, that's the lens that she sees through. But in our triple moon, there's a doorway, a portal that opens there. So she's intuition and the one who can go between the worlds, right? The Empress. The Empress is Mother Nature, Gaia, Aphrodite, Venus. She's everything, right? She's the earth. She's too big for us to comprehend as humans. So she's depicted in this way, right? She lets you see her eyes, but we can't understand the entirety of her. So we just get this little glimpse. But there is compassion and love and growth there. And in the background, actually, Leo included an image that I believe is the planet Venus is what we're seeing in the background there because of her connection to that goddess. The Emperor is another one that is just a depiction of the energy of the card, the movement and the energy rather than a figure. So you can see that we've got a grid, power grid at the bottom of the card because the Emperor is about stability and foundation, right? That our world is built upon. But the Emperor, we also have a birch scepter or birch staff there because birch is flexible and willing to bend a little bit, right? So we have here structure, but also renewal and flexibility. And the horns there, we have determination and forward movement. Right? And the Hierophant. So that's a really different one from the traditional version, right? That our Hierophant there. So the Hierophant in our deck is like a transmitter, right? Radio waves or energy coming from that card because messages from spirit are all around us, right? Traditionally, the Hierophant is a teacher who transmits wisdom and knowledge to us, sort of our go-between with the divine. In our deck, we want you to know that those divine messages from spirit are all around you all the time. And you might need a teacher to help you to tap into it. The Hierophant will give you the key to learn that, but you can do it yourself. Okay. the Lovers. So our Lovers card. So those snakes in the card and the apple, a little bit cheeky there, they are offering you wisdom, right? And that the answer to everything, that the wisdom of everything comes from love, right? And the sacred geometry in the card reminds us that we are whole within ourselves, but we're also connected to others, right? And reminds us that we are masculine, feminine, divine, everything, everything within us, right? As well as the connection and joy that we get from love and connection with others. Okay. And finally, the Chariot. So with our Chariot, we've got that spiral dance, that spiral energy moving up through the cards. And the Chariot is an energy of wanting to move forward, right? You're ready to go, right? You're ready to do it. Just go, right? But the Sphinxes in the card are asking you, like, before you go, do you know where are you going? Do you know where you're going? If you can't answer that question, we're not going to let you pass by. So you better think about it, right? So there's a feeling there, the Chariot wants you to move forward, wants you to go after your goals, but it would be really helpful to know where you're heading, right? If you can answer that question, then no obstacles in your way. Okay. So woo, that it was a really fast pass at the first row of cards. So I'm going to have a look at the chat there. And before I move on to the next row of cards, any particular questions that come up for you about those cards or about the way that we've depicted them? I'm just looking at the chat. That's nice. Yeah, that's lovely. So yeah, the mentioning that you see movement. Yes, that movement, there are like gears that are moving and rotating, right? Yeah. And the Hierophant reminds me of lighting candles at Easter for hope and promise. Beautiful. Yeah. Okay. Oh, and Kate says, did you choose the colors purposely by card? Right. So we choose. Yeah. I mean, we didn't have a color scheme where it's like, specifically saying for each card, it has to be this color, or for the minors, either it has to be color. But like for me, the energy of the Magician is red. Like that was really important to have that active energy coming out. And the High Priestess has to be sort of blue and purple, and because she's in that world of spirit, right? The Empress has to be green because she's life, she's nature, right? So more along those lines rather than a particular scheme. Oh, and yeah, does Leo have any connection with the Rider-Waite, Liz? Yeah. You know what? When Leo and I started working on this, I don't think he had any tarot background at all. Yeah. But he had me. So I bombarded him with everything you wanted to know about tarot, but were afraid to ask, right? So that was really great, actually, because we got to work on it together, and I got to know his vision and he got to know the cards. So it was really great. Oh, yes. And so, Colleen, I noticed the Empress has the same crowns as the heart, and the Emperor has the mind. Yes, because we do feel a connection between the Empress and the heart, or the Queen in a traditional deck, and the Emperor and the mind, or the Kings, right? So it's just a little reminder. Like, to me, the Empress and the Emperor, the higher archetypes of that, and then the heart and the mind, or the Queen and the King, are those energies, but more in the everyday world, right? Or yeah. Okay. Awesome. All right. So is everybody okay to go on to the next row? have a sip of water, a sip of tea or something, or what, fortify ourselves and go on to the next. Okay, because things get wilder as we go deeper into the cards, right? This is already a lot, but as you know, the deeper we go into the cards, the deeper the messages get. Okay, so then the next row of cards from 8 to 14 here. So we've got Strength, the Hermit, the Wheel of Fortune, Justice, the Hanging One, Death, and Temperance. Right? So again, before we dive in, have a look, have a breath. Do they feel different than the first row? Right? Do they feel different to you? If so, why? Do you notice anything has shifted a little bit? and what we're dealing with. And again, if any particular cards really catch your eye or resonate with you, make note of that for yourself. Oh, yes, less crowns on the second row. Yeah. Yeah, are there any? You could argue, but it's true. That's good observation. So looking at this row, as I said before, we're going a little bit deeper now, right? We're going a little bit more into the unconscious or the subconscious within ourselves. And we're starting to ask big questions at this point, like going within and asking questions about like, who am I, right? How do I operate in the world? What am I here to do, right? So quite inward looking cards in this row. So starting with strength, I know I say this all the time, but I love this card. This is like maybe one of my favorite versions. It's my favorite version of strength, but it's also a card, one of the cards that I just adore. Because strength, the kind of strength we're talking about here, inner strength, that infinite source of inner strength that we all have and that we all need to live as human beings in this world, right? So if we can start to trust that we have that strength at our disposal, then we can conquer any challenges that come our way, right? And the way in our strength card, the way we've depicted it there, again, that infinity symbol, so we have access to infinite strength that we don't even know until we need to access it. And sometimes in this life, you have to be strong in different ways, right? You have to be as fierce and noble as a lion. You have to be as gentle as a rose. You have to transform yourself like that gentle butterfly there, but we all have these different kinds of strength available to us. And then our hermit card is quite different from the traditional one too, right? I think our hermit is much more gentle and vulnerable, right? Because I think of the hermit as someone or as an energy that really obviously likes solitude, right? Would prefer to be alone within their own inner cosmos, getting lost in that place, right? Of study and exploration and self-knowledge and wisdom, right? So our hermit, that's what they thrive on, and that's what they want to do. But they shine this light out into the world because they know that their wisdom and their guidance is needed, right? And that does make it makes you a little bit vulnerable, right? To be able to shine your light out into the world. So the hermit has to go between those states of being. And it takes courage. It takes strength. Actually, go to the card before. It takes strength to be that hermit. Right? All right. And then the Wheel of Fortune. So with our Wheel of Fortune, you can see that mysteries are starting to be revealed, right? That Sphinx, that we saw the Sphinxes before in the Chariot, the Sphinx is starting to open up and reveal some mysteries. You can see those sacred shapes, those platonic solids are materializing into view, and you'll meet those in the Minor Arcana. The cosmos is starting to open up to you. So the Wheel of Fortune is letting you know that mysteries are starting to be revealed, right? Not entirely, just a taste. Maybe you're starting to see patterns, to understand things in a different way. So all you can do is just go with it, right? Let the wheel spin, let things unfold as they need to, but watch for those mysteries and those understandings to be revealed. Okay. All right. Then justice. So justice is another one that we depicted without, well, we have that eye, the all-seeing eye, of course, but without a human figure or without an animal figure or divine figure there. Most prominent is that sword, right? That sword, you see the tip is hitting the target because justice always hits the mark, right? Hits its target. And the kind of justice that we're talking about here goes deeper than human law. It's universal justice, right? Are things in balance in your life? Are you acting in accordance with your beliefs, right? If not, what needs to be adjusted? And I should mention too that at the bottom of the Justice card is a piece of or a depiction of petrified wood. So the idea that it's something that justice is also a recorder, it records history, right? And it reminds us of the significance of cause and effect, right? Of consequences and responsibility. Okay. Then we have the hanging one. So this one we changed quite a bit as well. In traditional decks, it's the hanged man, and here the hanging one, because we just wanted to take out any kind of connotations of violence or suffering in the card, right? Our hanging one looks pretty relaxed, right? Pretty at ease in the cosmos, even though things may be spiraling around. The hanging one is just like, I surrender, I relax, I release, and I'm just going to see what unfolds. I'm going to look at things from a different perspective and just wait for that epiphany to come. So I really love this card because I think there's a little bit of a sense of humor in it too, of just like, I'm going to turn things on the head and let's see how it looks. Okay. And then, so now we hit the death card. So death is not the end in the tarot, right? Death is only card number 13. And we still got a whole other row of cards to go. So it is transformation though. And so we depicted it in this way because death is an experience that really opens your vision, opens your third eye, makes you see the world in a different way. It's transformation and change and something coming to an end so that something else can open up for you, right? But we're not shying away from how difficult the death card can be, right? It takes you down to your bare bones, literally. And then finally, temperance. So in our temperance card, we've got, again, that repeating image again of the infinity symbol. So temperance and the angels on the card there, that's us. That's us, the different contrasting sides of ourselves. And temperance brings everything together, right? So the death card might ask you to give something up. Something has to come to an end. But temperance says, no, we're just going to work with what you've got. We're going to bring it into harmony and get it all flowing together. Okay. All right. So just looking at the chat here. Yeah. The death card is kind of scary. Yeah, it's an in-your-face depiction there, right? The white light, yes. So Grace is mentioning the white light that people talk about, right? With a near-death experience, light at the end of the tunnel. Yeah, beautiful. Exactly. Or when you bump your head, you see a flash of light. Yeah. Yeah, good. That's a great observation. Yeah, and the hanging one seems freer of restraints than the tradition. Yes, that's what we were going for, right? Like there's just ease there. And I love I love the plush lion paws too, the Sphinx. Oh, and the hermit. Yes, thank you. So I know Dawn is asking, why is there a pencil? It's hard to see in the picture I see here now too, but it's actually smoky quartz. It's a smoky quartz point. So sort of a grounding energy, focusing and grounding energy. And Grace just realized the hanging one has a face. Yes, but it's in the cosmos there, right? But it is subtle. Okay. All right, my dears. So I'm going to move forward and go through the last row. So we do have some time to play and pull a few cards before our time is up together. So let's go to the last row of the cards when things get really interesting and we go really deep. So this, if we've gone sort of the conscious mind, now we've gone into the subconscious, unconscious, we're going super conscious, universal consciousness. Here we go. Okay. So just as before, take a breath and have a look at these cards, right? Do they feel different to you than the previous rows? The color or the energy or the way we've depicted them, what first strikes you with them? And also, is there one that you're really drawn to or one that you're not so sure about? So just have a look. Yeah, that devil, eh? That devil. That is, I think, the scariest card. But also an awesome, I love it, but it's quite an image. Right? Yeah. Oh, vibrational art. Yeah, there's a lot you can really feel, like, especially the devil. Actually, you're right. The devil, the star, the world, all this feeling of energy and vibrate. It's intensifying, right? As we get into this row. Okay. So let's do a quick tour through the final row of the Major Arcana here. So we have the devil, and we've depicted our devil in this way because the devil's wearing chain. The devil's us, right? Like, we are the devil in our of our own making, a hell of our own making, right? Often. So the devil's wearing chains, right? But also, I feel like the devil's trying to ward something off, but also split, right? Is feeling split, feeling restrained, right? Like looking at something that you can't look away, but also your vision is really restrained, right? So the idea with the devil is that this feeling that you're disconnected from source, right? Like, the devil often comes up when you're feeling isolated, when you're feeling alone, when you're feeling disconnected from your real self and from the source energy that we all share, which is can leave you in a really terrible spot, right? So the devil wants you to know that you have the power to set yourself free, and it's just an illusion. You're always connected to something bigger than yourself, and you can't lose it. You're always connected to yourself. Okay. So then also, just another not relaxing card, we have the Tower. So the Tower in our deck, I have the feeling of this Tower looking like a chess piece, right? A chess piece on the board, and you think everything is all fine. You're moving around your life, and you've got your strategy, you know exactly what you're doing. And then that lightning bolt or big cosmic hand comes down and goes and knocks you off the board, right? So the Tower is unexpected revelation, right? Or something on a shaky foundation wants to come down. And so it's disruptive, but ultimately liberating, because there's nothing worse than being in that feeling of free fall, right? When things aren't solid, or the ground isn't solid beneath your feet. So the Tower is, let's bring that to an end. It'll be disruptive or difficult, but then you're going to be amazed at how resilient you are and how you can rebuild. Okay. Okay. The Star. So coming back to our other discussion about being aware of the cards that are around the particular majors that come up for you, the Star comes after some really challenging cards, right? We had death, we have the devil, we have the Tower, and then suddenly healing, light returns, right? The Star is a homecoming back to yourself, and all your parts of you, all your energy coming home to yourself, and reconnecting with source and with your guides, with your higher self, right? Because the Star is a guide. And then we move on to the Moon. I love this moon. So our moon is different from the traditional moon. It's tapping into your primal self, your ancient self, your ancient wisdom, your ancestral wisdom, right? The moon gives you access to that, to your intuition, to your instinct, to your understanding of life, of ebbs and flows and cycles, right? And reminds you that there's a lot of knowledge to be gained from the shadows if you have the fortitude to go into that place. Then the Sun. Again, this is a really different depiction than the traditional one that we chose for this card. And to me, it's just pure joy, source energy, connection with the divine. You know, the Sun is this feeling of wanting to look at something divine that's so beautiful, but it's too bright for us to understand, right? It's just reconnecting with self, with source in a really beautiful, joyful way. Success, recognition, shining, really shining like the sun in your own life. Then we move on to Judgment. Again, very different from the traditional one. Judgment, we have this angel that has morpho butterfly wings, right? So transformation, that is us rising up out of our shell, so to speak, freeing ourselves from a place that's too small for us, cracking open and living our purpose, right? And that is ready to carry us upwards. And finally, the World, right? So such freedom in this card and joy, culmination, right? With this card, see, this figure is above the world, right? It's like you've learned how to live in the world. You've been successful in your life this far. You understand what it is to be human, celebrate it and revel in it, but know that there's still more. And speaking of which, here's our final card that we added to the deck, Activation Arcana 22. So in this card, you can see that all-seeing eye that started all of this journey for me. That's the all-seeing eye that floats over Leo's gallery orbital arts that pulled me in, and continues to just pull me in every time I look at this card, at Leo's artwork. So activation goes a little bit beyond the world, right? It's like you're on the verge of profound spiritual awakening. Your eye is open, you're seeing things clearly, and anything you envision, you can manifest, right? And with the blue rose there and that all-seeing eye, it reminds us that, or lets us know that we've achieved really significant knowledge all through our journey through those major arcana cards. We've gained wisdom and understanding, and we understand that everything comes back to love, that if we can live our lives coming from a place of love, then everything shifts. And what might that be like if we can have it being the guiding force for us in our life? Okay. So any questions or comments before we take the last few minutes? And it's going to be fast, I know, but I want to get us pulling some cards. So any questions or comments before we do something a little bit different? Yeah, I know. I love the wings on the world card. Yeah, the yellow spot next to the tower, little person falling out of the tower there, Liz. And the world makes you think of the magician, the red. Yeah, beautiful. Okay. So how do you feel about pulling a few cards, giving a spread a try? Yeah. Let's do it. Okay. So the spread that we're going to play with together is in the book. It's the blue rose spread, but we're going to do it just with the major arcana in our time together, because that's what we just spent our time looking at. But when you read it for yourself, you can use the whole deck, or you might find the nature of the spread is really wonderful just with the majors, right? Because the purpose of this spread is to help you connect with the energy of the deck, of the Unifying Consciousness Tarot specifically, and with source energy, with the vibration of love, and just to start to activate your spiritual awareness. So it's more of a general kind of check in with yourself kind of spread, self-care, self-awareness spread, rather than looking at a specific situation. But that being said, if you're in a challenging situation or you have a particular goal, this spread would actually be really helpful, right? To show you what you need to do to be working at your highest level, so to speak. Okay, so I'm just going to read the spread positions to you, and then I'm going to ask you to pull the cards, right? So don't worry about memorizing this or anything. I'm just going to give you a flavor for it. And if you like, you can shuffle your majors while we're doing this, and just shuffle however you usually would till it feels like it's enough. And the cards that you're going to be pulling, the first one is asking the question, how can I resonate with the highest vibration of love? Then how can I awaken to my eternal nature? How can I connect with source with greater ease? What guide, guardian, or aspect of source is around me now? And the last card is, what message does that guide in card number 4 have for me? So what I invite you to do is give your cards a nice shuffle, especially if you had them in order, really shuffle them up. And when you're ready, just lay them out in the pattern that you see there, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, in the shape of the rose there. And lay them out all in front of you, face up. And I want you to have a look at them first as a whole, right? Put aside those spread positions, those questions that I just read to you. Don't worry about them first of all, right? Just have a look at the cards that come up for you, what your initial reaction is to them, how they make you feel. Do you notice ones that you particularly like or ones that seem to be saying, pay attention to me, right? Before we analyze them, right? So whenever you're ready, go ahead and lay them out. And I've got an example here. Just so you don't worry about the spread positions, just lay them out from the top and around. And feel free to put your impressions in the chat if you want, you know, a word that comes to mind when you first looked at those cards, a feeling. Just let your intuition speak to you first. A lot of energy, yes. Magical purpose. Eyes, or eyes, I pause. I love it. I think I know what at least one of those cards is. Okay. So let's go through. Let's see. Oh, yes, I did. Okay, so let's have a completion, moving forward. The universe has my back. Let go and let love. Oh, these are beautiful. So you're already, then you're done there. That sounds great. You already got a strong message there, right? So that intuitive message can be really powerful. But now let's just break it down by position. And we'll just go through it quickly then I encourage you to take a picture of your cards or leave them out so that you can go more deeply into them. But let's look together. So the first card, the question we're asking here is, how can I resonate with the highest vibration of love? So have a look at your card. What does it tell you? You know, because for me, the Lovers came up, like, oh, we're asking about love and the Lovers came up. So everything, like, if the Lovers card came up for you, your guide is love, acting from love, not fear, perhaps making self-love a really important thing in your life. Relationships are important, right? So really tuning into that heart connection, right? Okay. The Hermit, know when to have some quiet time, reflect and rest. Beautiful. So if it's helpful to even just come up with one word, one keyword that the card inspires for you, right? So the Lovers, to me, I know, like, the word that just came up is love, right? So how can I resonate with love? I can be a loving person. I can love myself, right? Act towards others with love, right? Yeah. Tower was number one. Nice. The blessing made sense. Trust. Yeah, beautiful. Beautiful. And thank you for mentioning that too. You can always go back to the blessing that comes from the card too. Okay. The Empress, feel. Oh, I love it. Okay. So let's go on to the next card number 2. How can I awaken to my eternal nature? So what we're asking here is, how can I remind myself who I really am, right? We can lose track of that, right? How can I remember that I am more than just this form, you know, that I'm connected to everything? How can I remember that and awaken to that? And I have the Chariot come up. So, like, to me, the Chariot feels like, yes, you have to pursue that, right? The time is right to go after that goal. It's going to take something active from you, right? And asking the right questions. So have a look at your card, and what does it tell you? How can it remind you who you really are? So maybe something helpful, or maybe showing you a challenge that you're experiencing that's getting in the way of remembering who you really are. Yeah, I see it. So the Devil card coming up in the second position, that may be the challenge, is to just, you have to remember that you release limitations and remember who you really are, right? Or something that's not serving you well, it's got to go. Okay. So always try to take it back to yourself. And as I say, if you're just getting to know the cards, you don't have to go into too much, expansion at this point. Even if you can come up with one word, or one phrase, it's gonna help. Yeah, the Fool, surrender. Follow the feathers, spread your wings, strength, gentle strength. The Sun, receive. Oh, yeah. All right, so card number 3, we have, how can I connect with source with greater ease? Because wouldn't that be wonderful to be able to have that ease, right? To be able to just allow that connection. And so the card that came up in the example reading here, we have the Fool. And I just love that, because the Fool is like, you've just got to take that leap of faith. Don't overthink it, right? Just dive in and trust, right? So that would be a word that comes to me for the Fool, is just have faith and just trust, with joy as well. Okay. So for card number 3, I see the Hierophant, inner wisdom. Beautiful. Yeah. Going with the flow, the hanging one. Yeah. Nice. Okay. So the next 2 cards are connected, right? Because number 4 is what archetype is around you right now, right? What guide or guardian or teacher archetypal energy is around you right now, and around you in a positive way, right? Wanting to help you, wanting to guide you, wanting to support you. And then the card number 5 is the message that that guide has for you right now. The Magician, so many possibilities. Nice. So have a look at card number 4. Here I have the Star, right? So beautiful. I think I said before, I see the star as a guide, right? It gives you direction. It gives you a focal point to guide you, right? So in this reading, the star is the energy that's around you. And that to me is a healing energy coming right back to yourself, right? Bring your energy back to yourself. Remember who you are, right? And that know that you have some source of guidance around you. Yeah. And then the message that number 5, the message that card has for you, that if you're feeling stuck, if you're not sure what the message of that card is, this would be a really great place to check out what the blessing in the book is for that one, because the blessing really is a message from that card, that archetype for you, right? But first, see what your intuition tells me, right? Because when I look at the High Priestess in the example there, the message that the guide has for me is that trust yourself, because all the answers that you need are within, right? Go within, trust yourself. Judgment, the call is sounding. If I listen, I will hear it. The world, anything is possible. These are all really beautiful. And Grace, of course, you got the Emperor there, finding balance with the different properties of the Emperor. What kind of power you're working with there. So the last thing I will say, but when it comes to reading a spread like this, like we started out with, you lay out the cards, let your intuition speak to you, look at it holistically. What do you see? What do you feel? More importantly, right? What do you notice? Then we break it down by position. Get as much information out of those cards as we can. And then at the end, you want to circle back again and just look at the cards, right? Don't worry about the positions at this point. Look at them with fresh eyes now, with the information that you gathered through the process of looking at each one. Now step back and see, do you notice anything differently, right? Do you notice any directionality in the cards? Are they sort of like that star looks to me, is she pointing at the Fool or the Chariot? There's some interesting connection going on there, right? Like, so just have a look at it and see if you notice anything differently or any repeating symbols that maybe you didn't see before. And allow them to give you that final insight. Ah, beautiful. So Grace, I noticed the light in her cards, moderate glow, grows, and then evolves into a bright red. Lovely. So that's beautiful. Notice the colors as well. Okay. All right. So I know that was really fast. So I encourage you to get to know the majors on your own and also to hang on to that spread and make some notes for yourself. See if you work with it more deeply, what comes through for you, right? Okay. And so next time, keep working with that. Until next time, keep working with that first card that you pulled and see if anything else comes through for you, the blessing or activation. And then I invite you also to have a look at the minor arcana before we meet next time. Just divide them into suits, wands, cups, swords, and pentacles, and have a look at them and just try to get a feeling for each suit, right? Don't worry about each card, but just have fun getting to know them. Which ones sort of resonate with you just from the first pass, which ones are maybe a little bit more challenging. Right? Thank you. So I'm going to stop sharing. All right, sorry for that. I went a little over time there, but we did it. So I hope that that made some sense and that you're getting excited about getting to know these cards more deeply. Thank you so much for hanging in with me there. Yeah, it was so wonderful to see everybody. Thank you. And I'm really going to enjoy going back through the comments there. They're so beautiful. Okay. So if you have any last questions, then put it in the chat, but also I'm going to post this again on that private YouTube link. And I encourage you anytime to post comments there and I'll address them there too. So thanks everybody. Great to see you. And I look forward to seeing you next time. Bye. Bye. Bye-bye. Good seeing everybody.